All right, imaginary numbers, also called complex numbers. Okay? Imaginary numbers. Also called complex. It's really simple. They're not like imaginary like a unicorn or anything like that, but they're imaginary in the sense is they're not in the real realm of numbers. They're a whole nother set of numbers. And one way of thinking of it is kind of thinking of it rather than in the third dimension, but in the fourth dimension. You know, if you know anything about dimensions, you know you have these three dimensions that we're in right now, and then every dimension is 90 degrees to each other, right? So to put a fourth dimension in there, it has to be 90 degrees to each one of these, which is impossible to show in this realm because we live in the third dimension. So we can't show it, but we can pretend to show it when we have bubbles. Have you ever seen four bubbles together, right? Each one of those four bubbles is perpendicular to another, which is how you show four dimensions, kind of, in a sense, in when we talk about fourth dimension. So fourth dimension is within, can be within our own dimension, so we just never think of it like that. Well, these imaginary numbers are the same thing. They're not in our real realm of numbers, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but it's a whole nother set of numbers outside of those numbers. Okay? And the way that they're outset is imaginary. Starts with I. So guess what we use, what letter we use to show whether a number is imaginary or not. I. Okay? So what does I mean? I is equal to the one thing pretty much every teacher told you didn't exist or you couldn't do. And that is the square root of -1. I equals the square root of -1. Okay? So, what this does for us is it opens up a whole nother realm. You notice why we brought it into this whole quadratic area with the quadratic formula? Because sometimes the quadratic or the discriminant, right, becomes negative, right? And when the discriminant is negative, we said that there was no real, keyword, real solution. But there is an imaginary solution. And that's where the whole set of imaginary numbers come up. Okay? So, let's look at one imaginary number. There's a real simple one. Let's go with the square root of -4. That's pretty simple. Okay? Here, I get to take out, remember we worked with square roots, right? And so it's all we got to do is break it down. Okay? So, first thing I get to take out is the negative. And what is the negative? Remember, this is really the square root of -1 times 2 times 2. So, I get to take out the -1 as what? I. So now I have I square roots of 4, or 2 and 2, which is, the square root of 4 is 2. So I2. And how we're going to write it is 2I. Okay? And that is the square root of -4. 2I. It's not too bad. So let's do another one. Let's do one a little harder. 40. Negative. Of course, every problem is going to be negative because that's the point of it being an imaginary number. It's the square root of a negative number. Okay? So, let's do 40 and let's break it down. So, again, I get to pull out the I. I know the I's done. Boom. That's easy. Okay, now it's positive, and I treat it the same way. 40, 2, and 20. 2 and 10. 2 and 5. 5 and 1. I get to pull out 2 2's for 1 outside the box. 2i square root 10. And that, and believe it or not, plus or minus 2i square root 10. So now we're learning about that whole plus and minus thing. Okay? So that's that. That's how we deal with those. Okay? Let's see how we add them. Okay? How do we add imaginary numbers? Well, let's look at some simple ones first. How about 3 plus 4i plus 5 plus 3i? Let's do 2i, sorry. Let's keep all the numbers different so we know which ones we're adding. Okay, what's the like terms?
4i and 2i.
4i and 2i and 3 with 5. Okay? Okay, so let's add our numbers first, our i's second. I's come second. So you'll have 8 plus 6i, and that'll be your imaginary number. So all I did is take 3 plus 5 and 4 plus 2.
Can you do the same thing when you're subtracting them?
Yeah. Yeah, so like, let's say we've got negative 5 minus 4i plus 7 I minus 11. Something like that. Again, like begets like. Okay? Numbers first. So these are both negative, so it's going to become more negative. So we have negative 16. Okay? And then we're going to have negative 4 plus 7. Again, they're opposite signs, so it's going to become in the middle of them. So plus 3i, and we're good. How are we doing so far? Good? Good. All right. How much time I got? All right, I'm going to stop it there.